Economic activities in the far north region of Cameroon have come to a standstill following the collapse of the polar bridge in Marwa yesterday due to heavy rains. Inhabitants complained that they are now forced to circulate through the city, which makes things difficult for them. In this newscast, we hear from the city mayor of Marwa on the situation, and we tell you how government has urged humanitarian organizations operating in the far north, southwest and northwest regions to carry out their duties in a spirit of neutrality. This was a substance of a meeting between the ministers of external relations as well as territorial administration and the country manager for Médecins Sans Frontières in Cameroon. Those are top stories. Good evening and thanks for joining us. You're watching the primetime newscast on STV. Just as we told you in the headlines, economic activities in the far north region have come to a standstill following the collapse of the polar bridge yesterday due to heavy rains in the regional capital Marwa. Locals are now forced to move 6 kilometers within the city, but the city mayor believes that things will improve. Ladunette Oni-Ondesa with this report.
Inhabitants of Marwa in the far north region of Cameroon have expressed their worry in regards to the collapse of the Polar Bridge on Monday, 31st of August 2020. As you can see, here right to the other end, it's at the bridge of collapsing, the bridge of Ruchiri. Last year or the year before, there was a bridge of Boyo. This year is the Polar Bridge. What is next?
Prochainement, ça sera où? Vraiment, c'est triste. D'ailleurs, c'était même prévisible.
It's sad. Nevertheless, it was expected. This was to be worked on since, because this bridge has lasted for over 40 years, if I'm not mistaken. So it was to be rebuilt.
Le pays est comme il est maintenant là. Vraiment, c'est compliqué.
We need to be scared because if 2 bridges have collapsed in less than 2 years, it means next time it will be another bridge. If the government can get the best people to construct it, it will be of great help. With this bridge being one of the main routes for transportation, its collapse hampers easy movement for denizens residents at Pala. It has a negative effect on us. For us staying at Pala, we will have to walk around the whole city before getting to our destination. This is because one has to pass through Misengele before reaching Pala. So for us, going to the farm, we need to walk for over 6 kilometers instead of 1 kilometer. At all ends, we will have to spend. All Pala is blocked and isolated from the city. If there were to be another route, it would have been Boyo. But Boyo is under construction works. So since there's no movement, people are now forced to stay in their houses. The city mayor of Marwa, Sali Babani, visited the site evaluating the damages caused.
Il est question de rétablir la circulation sur la nationale. Rétablir immédiatement la circulation et de voir après.
It's now a question of reestablishing movement along national roads. In order for this to be done, another route has to be constructed. This road will help ease the movement along this path. The road will be used by trucks coming into Marwa from Kusiri, Marwa to N'Djamena. In regards to the shortcut that has to be constructed, it will aid movement and reduce traffic and other incidents happening on this road. As of now, the crossroad from Pala roundabout to Frolina is prohibited.
La circulabilité sur l'axe Carrefour Para et Frolina est désormais interdit.
The governor of Marwa, Mijiyawa Bakari, also visited the site yesterday, August 31st, 2020. He reassures the population that the state of Pala Bridge will be relayed to higher authorities and rehabilitation works will soon commence.
And an inter-ministerial delegation is expected in Marwa in the hours ahead. A recent Boko Haram attack still in the far north region, this time in the locality of Kuyapi, has claimed 6 persons. It is the 3rd time the locality is being hit by the terror group. Josephine Binzi tells us more.
6
6 lives have been lost in a recent Boko Haram attack in the far north region of the country in Kuyape. This is the 3rd time this year the locality has been hit hard by the terrorist insurgency, as in the month of February, a deadly suicide bombing was carried out in the village of Kuyape in the far north region of the country during morning prayers at a mosque, leaving about 13 persons dead, including the imam. The United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon had strongly condemned these killings while extending an arm of support to the government of Cameroon as well as its condolences to families affected. Early in the month of August, the Islamic group used apparent child suicide bombing method to launch another offensive on a site for internally displaced persons, as reported by Human Rights Watch Group, killing about 17 persons. The Boko Haram violence in Cameroon has forced over 322,000 people from their homes since 2014. Internally displaced people live in so-called spontaneous sites or with hosting families. A UN staff member told Human Rights Watch that there are 129 spontaneous displacement sites across the far north region, many of which are not protected. Cameroon also hosts approximately 116,000 refugees who have fled Boko Haram attacks in Nigeria. The recent killings of 6 persons adds to the pile of atrocities and crimes against humanity committed by the armed group.
The Minister of External Relations, Lejeune Belambela, and his colleague of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji, have urged the Cameroon country representative of Médecins Sans Frontières to be neutral as they carry out their humanitarian activities in the far north, northwest, and southwest regions of the country. The reason for the call is unclear, but humanitarian organizations in Cameroon have come under continuous scrutiny from the government in recent months. Details in this report.
With an indirect call to justify all transactions, medical and humanitarian activities in the far north, northwest and southwest regions, Doctors Without Borders have been summoned yesterday in Yaoundé by the Ministers of External Relations and Territorial Administration to curb or nullify their interventions in Cameroon's crisis-hit zones. External Relations boss Lejeune Belambela and colleague Minister Paul Atanganji have fine-tuned the activities without an official statement after yesterday's one-hour encounter. According to Cameroon Tribune of 1st September 2020, the head of the Doctors Association, Dr. Modeste Tamakloe Koku, has been schooled on high impartiality in the deployment of teams on ground. Government, however, acknowledges their efforts in crisis-hit territories all over the world in dire need of medical attention and humanitarian aid, as well as their importance in the far north, northwest, and southwest regions. The indirect call to justify all medical and humanitarian activities comes in a time when incessant crimes against humanity has been meted on the civilian population for 4 years. This has been the main cause for his summon last July by the Minister Delegate of the Ministry of External Relations, Adum Gagum.
The initiator of the Anglophone General Conference has called on the Committee for the Reconstruction and Development of the Northwest and Southwest regions piloting the presidential plan to implement communal development to Cardinal Christian Tumi, who is Archbishop Emeritus of Douala. This communal development will instill a spirit of love as well as unity amongst the stakeholders for the presidential plan. He was guest on the program Hard Talk on STV.
2 regions, the 2 Anglophone regions, have a good idea of community development. We're proposing that the army, the civilians, these boys, should work together to rebuild. And that is the way that if we succeed in getting them to work together for the development, that will be an indirect way of solving the pollution, of bringing about peace. When they work together, they will laugh together, they will eat together, and they will try to forget the internal wounds caused by the situation. The army has killed and destroyed. These boys have also killed and destroyed. And the innocent civilians found in the middle, if we can succeed in bringing them together at the same time, let them do this work. First, the cost will be cheaper. You know, I take the case of Buya, the Southwest. The elite is already collecting from their private resources means to aid in the rebuilding of this.
Now, the Director General of Elecam reveals that about 15,000 persons have been registered into the electoral list for the year 2020. Eric Esuse made the information at a press conference today in Yaoundé. He revealed that out of this number, 9,989 are men, 5,088 are women, 10,257 are youths, and 38 are people living with disabilities. The general turnout this year was timid due to the COVID-19 pandemic and insecurity in crisis-hit zones. After the closure of the register August 31, 2020, the Elecam will proceed with updating the list. That is, it will scrap up names of those who have died or those who have improper spellings on their register. The operation resumes January 1, 2020, and it should be noted that less than 7 million Cameroonians have their names on the electoral list. Transport authorities in Cameroon have unveiled reforms to secure and modernize transport documents. A new format of car registration documents has been established since August 17, 2020. In the following report, Crystal Asexuele met the regional delegate of transport for the Littoral region, who sheds more light on these reforms.
Since August 17, 2020, a new format of car registration certificate has been put into use by the authorities of the transport sector. This new format, which is similar to an identity card or credit card, authorities say it was time for this innovation to be done on the car registration certificate as well.
La production de la nouvelle carte grise est motivée par
This principal motivation of this innovation in format is first of all security. This new car registration document has a code, QR, where an authentic car registration document can be differentiated from a fake one. So it was foremost for security purpose that moved the authorities to change from the carton format of car registration documents to this one.
De passer d'une carte grise en carton à une carte grise dite PVC.
More secured, more resistant, and easy to carry around are some of the important benefits of this new format of car registration certificate. In addition to this, the acceleration in the production and obtention of this certificate are worth emphasizing on.
C'est la célérité dans la production des nouvelles cartes grises.
These cards will be produced in series, unlike the former which was produced one after another, which is not the case with this new application, which produces 15 car registration cards in a series. That is, within the space of a few minutes, 15 car registration documents are produced. This will limit the long waiting period of users, as well as limit the time spent on working on these cards for us.
Et même faciliter, n'est-ce pas, le temps abréger le temps de travail pour nous.
This notwithstanding, car registration certificates produced under the old format remain valid until the expiry date. However, all holders of the non-computerized car registration certificates, notably those with 4 digits, are called to transfer them under the new format on or before December 31, 2020. As defaulters will be
in the littoral region have reiterated the need for dialogue between civil society actors and the administration. At a press conference in Douala today, the civil society actors are upbeat that a dialogue platform will mitigate conflicts and make the civil society a veritable force in the society. Crystal Asexuele reports.
The creation of a platform of collaboration between the civil society actors and the administrative authorities was the raison d'être of this conference this day, September 1, 2020, organized by the members of the civil society platform of the littoral region.
Il faut dire que cette plateforme qui est portée par le projet ACED, financé par...
This is a platform carried out by the project ACED, financed by the European Union through its Active Citizen Program, which aims at creating and constructing solutions as well as issues that affect the population of the littoral region, which can cause tension. This is also a way of anticipating on issues that can arise in the littoral region. In summary, of the idea that has brought together all the stakeholders from the administrative services to the forces of law and order.
Plusieurs acteurs dont le gouverneur de la région du littoral et surtout les forces de défense et de sécurité qui sont conviés à ces rencontres-là.
Present at this event were administrative authorities, the forces of law and order, as well as members of the civil society platform who came together to dialogue and exchange on societal conflicts plaguing the littoral region. This project, as said, is financed by the European Union through the Active Citizen Program, which aims at reinforcing the organization of the civil society as a collective body that can fully play their role of relay for the opinion of citizens and actors in the promotion and construction of a state of law.
Que la société civile est une force de proposition. Alors, nous ne voulons pas nous limiter à faire des propositions. Nous voulons désormais être...
The civil society is a force of proposition. We do not want to limit ourselves just from making propositions. We want and waiting indefinitely for solutions. It is best for us all to sit around a table, propose and decide together. That is the basis of this dialogue. We can't dialogue just among civil society members. We have to associate the decision makers as well, especially those who make decisions in the littoral region.
C'est aussi pour accompagner, n'est-ce pas, le processus de solution aux problèmes que nous allons identifier.
After this first session, the project plans for 5 other such meetings, which will be carried out between now and December 2021.
The price of tomatoes in the economic capital has risen drastically from about 2,500 2 months back. Tomato now sells at between 8,000 and 11,000 francs CFA. Farmers and traders are, however, still grumbling that high transport fares is making them not to reap the fruits of their labor. Details with Ladonette Oni, who comes back with this report from the Sandaga market.
From 2,500 francs 3,000, the prices of tomatoes have skyrocketed to 8,000 here at the Sandaga market in the Douala 1 municipality. Prices of tomatoes have really increased. There was a time when we sold tomatoes at 2,500, but time has changed. The prices of tomatoes vary. We have 8,500 to 11,500. 11,500 tomatoes are very good, while the one sold at 8,000 francs has some soft tomatoes in the basket. Now we sell them at 8,500 francs. 7.5, 6.5 is the minimum price. A situation highly condemned by buyers. The prices of tomatoes are really expensive. Last month I bought it for 2.5, 3,000 francs, but today it's 8,000 francs. It's really expensive. It's true I consumed it in large quantity last month, but now it's really expensive. This increase is being blamed on the scarcity of tomatoes in farms. Before, there was plenty of tomatoes in farms. We sold it at 2,500, even 2,000. But it's absent now. It's expensive because the supply has drastically dropped, and with the opening of borders, the stock that was in abundance is finished. Now tomatoes are finished in villages. That's why prices have drastically increased. Despite the increase, vendors still complain of no profit due to the high cost of transportation brought in by rain.
Of the country, racial tensions has taken center stage in the U.S. presidential campaigns following deadly confrontations between Black Lives Matter protesters and white supporters of President Trump. Donald Trump has responded to the protests with a strong law and order message, while his Democratic challenger Joe Biden has accused the president for recklessly encouraging violence in the United States. Details with the VOA.
Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden on Monday blamed President Trump for deadly violence over the weekend after Trump supporters in Portland, Oregon clashed with racial equality advocates.
He may believe mouthing the words law and order makes him strong, but his failure to call on his own supporters to stop acting as an armed militia in this country shows how weak he is.
On Saturday in Portland, one person was shot and killed following confrontations between a caravan of Trump supporters, some of them armed, and Black Lives Matter demonstrators who have held nightly protests for the last 3 months. The shooting victim in Portland was affiliated with a conservative activist group called Patriot Prayer. President Trump called the counter-protesters in Portland who support him great patriots on Twitter Sunday. Last week in Kenosha, Wisconsin, a Trump supporter shot 3 people, 2 fatally, during protests that erupted there after a black man was shot in the back 7 times during a confrontation with police. At the Republican National Convention, President Trump denounced racial equality demonstrators as anarchists and criticized Democrats for condoning violence committed by these groups to maintain support from African American voters.
If the Democrat Party wants to stand with anarchists, agitators, rioters, looters, and flag burners, that is up to them. But I, as your president, will not be a part of it.
Biden on Monday strongly denounced any violence committed by supporters or opponents.
It's lawlessness, plain and simple. And those who do it should be prosecuted. Violence will not bring change. It'll only bring destruction.
President Trump is planning to visit Kenosha this week, even though Wisconsin's Democratic Governor Tony Evers urged him not to come, saying in a letter, "Your presence will only delay our work to overcome division." Portland's Democratic Mayor Ted Wheeler also criticized Trump for allegedly fomenting hate and division in the country. Trump called Wheeler a fool on Twitter for not calling in the National Guard to restore order. Biden has tried to make Trump's inability to contain the coronavirus pandemic the primary campaign issue. It is unclear whether Trump's law and order focus will change the dynamics of the race, but polls now show Biden's lead over Trump shrinking in key swing states like Michigan and Pennsylvania. Brian Patton, VOA News, Washington.
And that does it for the primetime newscast on STV. Thank you very much for watching. More news comes up at 8 p.m. in the French language. From us in Douala, have a good night. Bye-bye.